Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create. We're working on Ephemera Queen and we are on page 3. Page 3 is a very simple page. Page 2 has a little bit going on, so I wanted to keep this one kind of simple and not too bulky. It's going to have a top flap and a bottom pocket. So the bottom pocket is 4 1/4 by 9. 4 1/4 by 9. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on 3 of the 4 sides, so that the pocket gets installed along the bottom of the page. And I'm just dry fitting real quick to make sure it's going to fit. Everything looks good. Again, that's 4 1/4 by 9. And you're going to score 1/2 inch on 3 of the 4 sides. Sorry, I'm a little distracted. I did go over this in one of the other videos, and a lot of times I tape things before I get in front of you guys, but one of the things that I found to be effective in putting down pockets is when you fold your flanges up, fold the up and down flanges in first, and then fold the bottom one up. And that will allow anything that you're placing into the pocket to sort of follow along that flange and slide in and not necessarily get hung up on the bottom piece. So you want the length of and depth of the pocket, those 2 sides to fold in first and then fold up the bottom. And it just helps a little bit. It's not a significant difference, but it does help a little to keep things moving along and going all the way to the depth of the pocket. Wow, I'm having a hard time today. This is the second one I've done that I didn't get in straight. Sorry about that, guys. Let me see. What am I going to do? I think I just need to move it closer to me. I think I'm trying to do everything too far away from myself. Okay, there we go. That's in. And then we have a simple top flap, and this is 4 1/2 by 8. You're going to score a 1/2 inch on the 4 1/2 inch side. Let me turn that upside down so I can get a good look at my edges. Okay, now when you're finished, you should have a slight gap between the top flap and the bottom pocket. And that's deliberate because we're going to put something in the pocket that's going to hold that flap in place. So you should have, I think it's either a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch. Yeah, there's a 1/4 inch gap here. And that just makes it very easy to slide. Let me get something a little thicker in here. Slide something inside the pocket and it'll hold that flap down. Okay, so we won't need a magnet on this page. That is page 3. I'll be back in a few minutes with all my papers. We'll start decorating. Hey everyone, it's Daphne from Scrap and Create. And I want to let you know I made a mistake earlier. And I called page 6 page 3. This is actually going to be page 3. So I'll tell you what happened. And I'm building these pages out of order, and they're supposed to go in the book this way, and somehow I got it mixed up, so I thought this was page 3. Anyways, I'm going to run a banner across the bottom to let you know that I made that mistake. This is actually page 6, and we're working on page 3 right now. Okay, page 3, let me tell you. This is from the 12 by 12 collection pack, and this is from the 12 by 12 collection pack. This is the back side of the signature page. So these are going to go on the front of page 3. Page 3, and here's my glue. So sorry about that. That happens sometimes. I get them out of order. And normally, I'll tell you why this matters. Normally, because they're exactly the same page, you're like, well, who cares? Just switch them, right? Well, if I do that, then page 4 and 5 don't go together the way I wanted them to. I wanted the two floral patterns side by side, like so. And part of that is because I wanted these flaps to be on the outside of the pages, just so they move more freely, and there's no issue with it getting hung up in the spine. So that's the logic there. So that's the end of that. Okay, we'll go ahead and get these down. Again, this is 12 by 12. You may ask, why do I build out of order? Well, part of the reason is because I'm trying to evenly distribute patterns across the book. And if you just go in page order, I find that I feel compelled to use all my beautiful patterns on the front half of the book and then don't have enough to go over the back pages. So if I start from the middle and work out, I'm happier with the pattern distribution. So that's my design process. Everybody's a little bit different, but that's why I do it that way. And then also, I like to build up to the center so that basically, to me, the most visually interesting pages are page 4 and 5, the center of the book. It doesn't always work out that way, but oftentimes it does. With graphic, especially. Okay, let's see. Do I need to trim this down a little bit? I do. Let's see if I've got the width. You can still take a little off. So that should do it. Now I need to make sure it's the right height. It looks like I need to take about a 1/16 off to get that just right. So let's give it a shot. And see how it looks. Yep, that looks right. So I took just a 1/16 off. Okay, now we need to ink our edges. So the way I come up with the size for these decorator pieces is I measure this panel, and whatever the height width is, I take an 1/8 inch off the height and an 1/8 inch off the width, center it, and then I get a 1/16 inch border. That's how I come up with that. And I don't give you the trim sizes for the designer papers because honestly, I think it's best to always dry fit, test, and then trim like I just did now. But the other reason is some people like a wider border. So if you want an 1/8 inch border, then you need to make it a 1/4 inch shorter and narrower, center it, and then you get an 1/8 inch. So that's pure preference. I like a tight border, but not everybody does. I especially like a tight border on a black album because black is so bold. I think it's easier to go with a wider border when you're working with craft or white or cream. But when you're working with black, it's strong. So having a wide border, it's just a little too much visually to me. Okay, so that's in. All right. Now I've started fooling around with what I want to do on the inside, and what I think I want to do is I really like this little banner here. So I'm thinking about using that on the bottom. And it's going to tuck in just ever so slightly, and so that when you close it, you get to see those words, which is similar to the design that I did on page 6, because this is page 3. I have to keep saying that to myself. I get lost really quick. So I think I'm going to use this little strip border, and then I'm going to, I think, put yellow on top. But I'm going back and forth about whether or not I want to actually trim that blue strip off because I'm not crazy about this pattern on top here. So I'm going to give that a shot and see if I can't get this trimmed off without damaging it. It's very difficult because it's a thin strip, but I'm going to give it a shot and see if I can't get that done. Okay, I did it, guys. So I'm happy with that. So that's going to go in here. And it does have to go slightly into the pocket because if it goes straight against the pocket, it's cutting through the words. So it needs to be tucked in to basically the bottom of the words. I'm going to ink it and then we're going to slide it in there. And it's going to be a little fussy because it's so narrow. But we can do it. Sorry, I just took my dog for a walk and as per usual, my allergies are going crazy. At least the States, most of the fires are out, so the air quality is much better. But I just have terrible allergies. Something happened in my middle ages because I didn't used to have allergies. Now I feel like I'm allergic to everything in the air. And it's bad enough to feel congested, but the worst part of my allergies is my eyes are blurry. It actually affects my vision. So some days where I feel like I can't craft because I can't see. Okay, that looks good. Take off that little bit of glue. It should dry clear, but I'm just trying to clear that up. There we go. All right, I'm happy with that. Okay, now we need to decorate the B side. So I need a few minutes to get my pages inked, and I'll be right back. Again, we are on page 3. Page 3. Hey everyone, it's Daphne. We're going to finish working on page 3. So I've got the B sides ready, but also I'm going to go ahead and put together this card that I'm going to use to keep the flap closed. So I'm going to let you know what I've done. So I've got an ephemera card here, and these are 3 by 4. So I've just made a cardstock insert that's going to be the same width. So it's a little bit larger. It's actually 4 1/8 by 7.5, 4 1/8 by 7.5. I'm going to attach the ephemera card to the top, and I'm going to put some coordinating cardstock on the bottom, and it's going to go in this pocket to hold the flap closed. I'm going to do the same thing on page 6. I'm going to use an ephemera card and just make an extended card so that it will hold the flap closed. Okay. Okay, looks nice. Okay, so I came up with these measurements this way. I created my black cardstock piece and I laid this on here roughly. And what I want is for this ephemera card to sort of be centered on this panel when it's in the pocket. So that's kind of how I came up with the size or the height, of this card. So that was intended. It doesn't have to come up this far if you don't want it to. I'm likely to put some more items in the pocket, but I know that this will keep my flap in place when the page is inside the book. And like I said, I might put some additional items behind it or even in the pocket before I close the flap. Like so. Okay, so here's the papers that I've selected for the inside of page 3. So this is from the Patterns and Solids, and this is from the 8x8 collection pack. Okay, it's the cut apart page from the 8x8 collection pack. And I chose it because it's got this sort of ivory, and I've got ivory going on down here, so I think it makes for a nice spread. Okay, so let's get this in. There is a slight pattern in the background, and it has words on it, so be mindful of the orientation. The other way you can tell is just by flipping it over and looking at the orientation of the pattern on the flip side. It's pretty easy to see which way it goes. Okay, and then this is the patterns in solids, and it's really unidirectional. You can put it in any way. It happens to be a piece of scrap that I had, so I just had to trim it down in width. So, you know, even if it's not this one, just for a red piece, you don't have to necessarily cut into one of your 12 by 12s if you haven't already. So as I'm going through and covering the B-sides, what I typically do is I thumb through all the pieces that I've trimmed off and look for something there first, and then I'll go cut into a 12 by 12 if I need to. And I will, but not always. Sometimes I won't have to. Okay? Lovely, lovely. And then this is going to go in the pocket and hold everything in place, and it's getting stuck on the bottom. There we go. There it is. So that is, I have to think about it, page 3. That's right, page 3. Next time we get back together, we will be working on page 4.